best we can.
You might be expecting a lot. Yeah.
Product placement.
We have Mary Liz product
the last
placement.
one.
I was like an American Idol joke.
It's more local.
Coke should be sending us a check.
Yeah. If they don't, there's no Coke.
Yeah, let's switch it up for Pepsi.
RC.
Balance the budget with soda.
RC.
Yeah. Welcome to the April 1st, April Fool's Day Finance Committee meeting. I'm waiting for somebody to pull up Frank.
I hadn't thought of it, or I would have.
Tonight, we're continuing the conversation about the reserve fund transfer. There was a request for a reserve fund transfer. Do we have that form somewhere?
You kept the original, but I did.
Did I? Oh, good. Thank you. Can you just use your copy for now?
Yes, of course.
Ryan's in here somewhere. Ah, here's the original. That filing system works. So we have a reserve fund transfer request for $16,278 to pay for the upcoming election. And there was questions at the last meeting. You can come on up if you want. Yeah, come on up. There was a question last week on what if we weren't to approve the reserve fund transfer request, and there was a long email that went out today from Rick forwarding the opinion of the town council, Lauren Goldberg. Has everybody read this? Does anybody have questions?
This or the item on the table?
The item on the table, which includes this.
Which includes that. Well, I think we're kind of between a rock and a hard place. I think we were kind of, I won't say. I do have a couple of questions. And I know one was you were going to break out the expenses for us.
Yes.
And in going over the expenses, I think that will maybe answer some of the questions I have. And I'm looking back, and this is just my own homework. So in 2014, I believe for 2 elections, we budgeted $20,800. It was a little bit more in 15 because I think either we had to print something different or there was some reason why it went up a little bit to like 28,000. And in 2016, if I look on page 20 of 101 on our budget, the election salaries and expenses, for elections, our town manager has requested $20,800 for 2 elections. So I'm looking at that as 2 elections, that would be $10,400 per election. And in 9-3, when we initially talked about this possibility of coming to us, we were told at that point that the estimate would be somewhere around $11,000 plus or minus. So I'm looking at $10,004 and 11, so let's round it to say $11,000. Why are we being asked to put $16,278 to cover the election? I think it should only be $11,000.
You didn't get that complete amount from me.
Well, we have 16, right.
I had something prepared, but I was told that I didn't.
So I think that's my question is, like, if an election is planned on, and I'm not saying it's you, I'm just asking, as a member of the Board of Finance Committee, when we budget in $10,400 per election, or 11, give or take, why are we getting a form asking us to fund for this election $16,278? I'm wondering if that's a question that we need answered by the town manager, and should we postpone and bring this up again at another meeting until we get our answers? Because I know when they brought us a request for the special election, or the special town meeting, they wanted initially like $18,000, and when all was said and done and we asked for information, it came down to like half of that. So I just have a very hard time not knowing what makes up these figures, personally, to vote on something that's like almost $6,000 higher than what an average election is.
Do you have the breakdown, Leanne? Maybe that might.
I know Leanne, and
That
she,
might-
yeah, she gave us that, but I mean, it's still, to me, if we're being asked to fund the April election, we should be funding an April election at what an actual cost is for an election. And obviously, it's not 16,000 something dollars.
So it's,
What's the difference?
so with Barbara's question and Cindy's question, I think just goes into the details of the backup that you got.
Transfer that you received is September 3rd.
I don't think we ever received that one. Or it was an estimate that we might
Yeah.
get something, maybe.
So that one, town manager, moderator, and clerk. My expenses were not a part of that.
So how much was that initially?
This one right here says 15,499, and that looks like it's for the audiovisual and the rental of the tent.
So that was for the special town meeting.
That was for the town meeting, and that ended up being about 7,900 and something, I think 7,999, because we got money back from Cable Advisory, and we got money from, they got a second estimate after we asked for a second estimate, and that came down by $2,000.
So when,
No, good.
so when they reduced that number down to 7, did that still exclude your expenses?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that one had nothing to do with me. The, just a real quick glance, I had about 3,500 in staffing that was not factored in for that election, because on here I have.
For the town meeting?
For the town meeting.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
Meeting. For the ballots, the coding, and the postage, because back then, when I was asked, I was trying to guesstimate what it would be. And you don't always know before because of the police and how much the question is, the ballot's gonna actually cost. They vary from, election to election because of the letters that are on there.
But that was, that request, I just need it in my own mind, that request for the 15,499 that did not include your cost, that was for town meeting, that had nothing to do with the special town election.
Correct.
Okay.
Although it does say my name, well, the clerk's office. on it.
Okay, so they didn't factor in any of those costs for the town meeting.
Correct.
The request that we have in front of us is for funding for a town election. So we should only be voting on monies for the town election. The town meeting is a whole separate thing. Okay.
And so it was spent, salaries on there, the cost of the ballots, coding, postage, and staffing.
That's included in the $16,000 one?
Yes.
The salaries from the town meeting, or the salaries from
Just the election.
just the election? Okay.
And the 16,000 is for, so some of it's for the election in April that we're gonna have, right? And some of it is going backwards, or is it all going backwards?
To me, it's all going backwards. I think it's easier to put back where it was taken than to anticipate what's going to happen. If that makes sense.
I was just gonna say, so can we get maybe if we just did a breakdown of the 16,000?
Yeah, which is, that's where you're
Everything
going.
out,
Yeah,
and then,
I was asked the night of this first meeting to guesstimate what everything would be, and I did have that at the time, and it was all ready to go. So salaries, which would include the janitors, the staff, additional hours that were allowed for my assistant, came to about 6,300. Ballots were 5,045. The coding for the discs, memory cards, was 416.07. Postage was 90.
I'm sorry, is that $416?
07, yes. Postage was 90. And then again, like I said, there's some additional staffing of 3,000.
From,
For the staff that was hired, the janitors, police, all of
For the town meeting.
couldn't even look.
So we're bundling the town meeting into the town election?
No, when I say
Okay.
staffing, it's all for the election.
The
Okay.
So the
special
salaries
election.
were projected at 6,300,
About that, yes.
and then in addition to the 6,300, you needed additional staffing for the,
The way I broke it down, that number that I gave you was for the staff for that day, for the election, and for the janitors, the police officers, and for everybody.
The additional 3,000 that you just read.
Was for staffing in my office.
Okay.
Yeah,
so not at the actual.
it was to support that.
Gotcha.
Because if we go back to, I only have a part-timer. I think I was out sick one day or at a conference, if there was something going on, we couldn't close the office for the absentee voting for that day. So Barbara was given permission to work.
Are you comfortable, so who put this together? Is this you, or is this the town manager?
I did that one.
Okay,
With Sue. Sue and I did that together.
so we're comfortable that that
I'm
number is,
comfortable with that.
okay.
The work that I did with Sue, yes, I am
Okay.
comfortable with that.
Could you read what the purpose is?
The whole thing? I'll start from the top. Request to be made and transfer voted before any expenditure in excess of the appropriation incurred. Date 3/9/2015 to Finance Committee. Request is hereby made for the following transfer from the Reserve Fund 1320-578.9.0500 in accordance with Chapter 40, Section 6 of the Massachusetts General Laws. Amount requested, whole dollars, $16,278 to be transferred to account, I'm not going to give the account numbers, 7,640 for election salaries and 8,638 for election expense. You want me to keep going? Anyone? So, reading this with the email, I mean, there really isn't a lot of options on there. I think everybody understands, or at least has heard us, whether they listen to it or not, that we're upset with the way it was handled, and me personally, I wish that it had been addressed to us prior to the elections. I think it could have saved a lot of issues. This gives us really two options. Don't vote for it, and the selectmen have to hold a special town meeting to ask for the money to fund the April elections, or approve the transfer request that we've been presented.
Motion to approve the transfer request as presented by the town manager, or the town clerk rather, be the town manager.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Soliloquy?
Excuse me?
Soliloquy, less discussion. This is more just a point of order.
I needed a definition of soliloquy.
I think that we're bound, and our action of discretion was removed, independent of what the charter indicates, what the role of this organization or what this committee does. For that, I begrudgingly offered my motion for approval, not because I believe in passion or prejudice in enforcing the issue. I'm not a fan of additional costs being compelled by withholding a vote. Although I do believe, I do so under duress, vote in favor for it when the vote does come up, because I don't believe that the burden of the cost of the special town meeting held prior to the annual election or deferring such is appropriate. So with that stated, again, much with a heavy heart and a chagrin, I think the notion of the democratic process may have been inadvertently usurped or advertently, I don't know yet. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Just to say, as I wasn't here last time, sort of along the lines of what Sean is saying, it feels to me like in the previous year's budget, we had budgeted for 2 elections, a fall election and then the regular April election, and funds for this upcoming April election were used for other purposes without consulting the Finance Committee first. And I think that's...
They were used for an election.
And they were used for an election, but not the election that they were funded for, that they were voted for, appropriated for. So I think that's where the problem that we had lies. I think I don't think any of us wants to cause a additional special town meeting to be held and more cost for the town to be incurred.
Thank you. Cindy?
I was here for the discussion, and I agree with Sean, especially with what he says under duress. We're kind of put into a position to have to vote on something that shouldn't be. But I also just want to, for my own clearing of my mind or whatever, I don't feel, I don't want anybody to feel that this was pointing at Leanne. The town clerk does what she's directed to do. So I don't hope that, nobody that's watching this or, will see the minutes of this or hear our discussions, that we don't like having things like this brought to our attention. I just need to clear the air that our town clerk is not somebody that would just come in and spend money inappropriately or without direction. And she has to take direction from the town manager, the assistant town manager, the board of selectmen, the powers that be. So I just want to go out there publicly and say that personally, I do not believe that the town clerk is in any way responsible for any of this that has gone on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to add to that, it's usually the town manager that comes before us with those issues, not Leanne, so wasn't even a, that would have been opposite the regular protocol, how things usually work, if things had been done any differently, so.
Any further discussion? There's a motion and a second to approve the reserve fund transfer for $16,278. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda, budget review. We have nothing to review tonight. Correspondence, review of minutes, or no, liaison reports. Are there any liaison reports?
I have no liaison report.
Thank you, liaison. Review of minutes. We have minutes from the meeting last week, March 25th. Excused Rebecca, Michael, and Matt. Look for a motion on these minutes.
Move to accept.
Second.
Discussion?
It's silly point, we did make a request for supplemental data from Social Votek. Did they supply that?
I have not received that data. Further discussion on the minutes? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. Correspondence? We have correspondence. I remembered to check the mail. We have a letter from Norfolk County Agricultural High School to inform us that the following number of students enrolled at the Norfolk County Agricultural High School: grade 9, 2, grade 10, 2, grade 11, 3, grade 12, 2. As of March 16th, there are 4 students who have applied for admission for the 2015-2016 school year, and when they are offered and accept a place, another letter will be sent clarifying the number of applicants enrolled. That is all that we have on the agenda tonight. Looking for another motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you.